Cain became furious, his face darkened and his expression changed. God, who sees beyond appearances, confronted him with love and a warning. Why are you angry? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. It was a direct warning, a chance to choose. Cain could still change the course of his story, but instead of listening, he fed his resentment. The seed of envy took deep root in his heart, and in a moment of false calm, Cain invited Abel to go out to the field with him. There, away from their parents' eyes, away from human sight, though never from God's, Cain rose up against his brother and killed him. The first human blood was spilled upon the earth. A silent cry echoed through the heavens. Creation, which had been made for life, now became the stage of death. Outside Eden, the land was different. The soil no longer responded easily to man's touch. The wind, once gentle, now blew dry and merciless. Yet even in this new world, life went on. Adam and Eve, though carrying the weight of guilt, kept moving forward, not as innocents anymore, but as human beings aware of their own fragility. Eve conceived and gave birth to her first son, Cain. Later came Abel, two brothers, born of the same mother, but with very different hearts and paths. Cain was a farmer, working the land with effort. Abel was a shepherd, tending his flocks with care. Both learned about God from their parents, heard the stories of Eden, of creation, of the fall, and they knew the importance of honoring the Creator. One day, each brought an offering to the Lord. Cain offered fruits from the land. Abel, on the other hand, brought the firstborn of his flock, the best lambs. God looked with favor on Abel's offering, but not on Cain's. And then something new emerged in the human heart. Envy, a silent poison that grows quietly until it becomes destruction. Once again, God came near, and just as he had done with Adam, he asked a question, not to gain information, but to awaken the conscience. Cain, where is your brother Abel? Cain's answer was cold and ironic. I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? But God knew. The earth, which had received Abel's blood, was now crying out for justice. The crime could not be hidden, and the consequence would come. God pronounced the sentence, "Cursed are you from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain felt the weight of the sentence. He feared being killed by others. Yet even after such evil, God showed mercy. He placed a mark on Cain so that no one would kill him. And so, the first murderer in history was spared, not because he deserved it, but because of divine long-suffering. Cain left, wandering the earth. He founded a city and had children, but his story remained marked by violence, exile, and separation from God. Meanwhile, Adam and Eve had another son, Seth. With him, a new hope was born. From his line would come a generation that would once again call upon the name of the Lord. Yet the earth was becoming more and more corrupted. Cain's descendants multiplied, not only in cities and inventions, but also in evil. Violence increased, hearts grew harder, and sin spread like an invisible plague. But there was a remnant. Those who still sought God, who remembered the stories of Eden, who taught their children about the Creator. Men like Enosh, Enoch, and later Noah, each would be part of this lineage of faith. The fall of man wasn't an isolated event, it became a legacy. Each generation inherited not only life, but also the tendency toward disobedience. The world, once created with such order, now seemed chaotic. But even so, God did not completely withdraw. His plan of redemption was still in motion. Enoch, for example, walked with God in such a way that he did not experience death. He was taken directly as a sign that communion was still possible. His life was a contrast to the growing darkness around him. Humanity continued its journey, sometimes turning to God, sometimes diving into sin. And heaven, silent, watched. The time for the promise had not yet come, but the eyes of the Lord scanned the entire earth, searching for faithful hearts. The story of the fall of man doesn't end in tragedy. It points to the need for redemption. Since Eden, God had promised a descendant who would crush the serpent's head. That promise was passed down from generation to generation, like a light shining in the darkness. Every child born was a potential fulfillment of that promise. Every altar built was a reminder of the covenant. Every tear shed, a cry for restoration. Even as sin spread, God did not give up on humanity. He continued to work through people, through families, through stories. The lineage of faith grew amidst the corruption, and a new chapter was drawing near. A man would be called to restart the world. His name was Noah, but that is a story for the next episode. If you've watched all the way to this point, thank you for joining another chapter in this journey through the Bible. The story of the fall of man is intense, but full of lessons that still speak to us today. Every choice has consequences, but there is always a chance to start over. If you enjoyed the way the story was told, with this narrative style that places us inside the events, subscribe to the channel Sacred Journey. That really helps us keep producing high quality and meaningful videos. Leave a like, share the video with someone who needs to hear this story, and comment below. What touched you the most in this narrative? Which part made you reflect? May our search for God remain strong, even in the midst of life's challenges. I'll see you in the next episode.